Welcome to episode 75 of the Drag Driver Pete Show, presented by Summit Racing. For this episode, to Cody Clements from Australia. That's right, other side of the world. Literally, you're seeing these two right here behind me, different sides of the world. About his experience traveling to Sweden for this year's Street Week Sweden. Mr. Eric White, will you please hit that intro video for us, sir?
Yes, sir. Let's go.
We're gonna pack things up and hit the road and try to make it the next day.
All right, dude, we are live and ready for episode 75 of the Drag Driver Pete Show, presented by Summit Racing. Y'all, I'm telling you, I'm excited about this. My name is Mike Narx. I am the host of this Drag Driver Pete Show and the news that happens on Saturday mornings. And I'm headed to Detroit tonight. I'm leaving tonight to go for my first full announcing gig, dude. Can you tell I'm anxious? Can you tell I'm
Yeah,
ready?
yeah. You'll do good though.
I mean, listen, I think I can talk about Dragon Drive Racing, so we'll be fine. Mr. Eric White, please introduce yourself. Tell them who you are and what you got going on, dude.
I am Eric White, the co-host of both the show and the news, except for next week, 'cause I'm going to be on vacation, so I won't be here next week. But otherwise, I am your co-host every week. And outside of that, I do some photos at events, so wander around, take photos. I do some artwork, so
Mhm.
some graphic design type artwork for different events, our events, other events, and just stay busy with all that stuff.
Yeah, you say some artwork. You've done a lot of artwork lately, and I want to say thank you because, dude, you've saved me a ton of time, and it looks way better than what I would do. So, you're the man. So, guys, if you're looking for like, I hate to just say event flyer stuff because it's so much more than that. But if you're looking for something that's going to help your brand pop, holler at Eric White. He's the man. Mr. Chris Wozniak in there making comments, guys. Bring the comments tonight. We got a lot of fun stuff to talk about tonight. I want to say first off, you know the deal, guys. We can't do this without y'all. Race car friends are the axis this world turns on. I'm telling you, it's amazing to be up late and see the notifications coming in at all hours of the evening and in the middle of the day. I know what you guys are doing. You're sitting in the executive lounge on your phone looking at stuff. And I just want to say thanks for all the comments. Thanks for all the shares. Thanks for all the stuff you guys have been doing lately. It's really has helped us have this spike in followers and views and all that kind of stuff. So we can't do that without our race car friends, which are you guys that are watching tonight. And I want to give a big shout out to Brandon Parker this week. Him and I've been having a ton of conversations lately, and there's something fun that he brought to my attention that we're going to include in the circuit 2025. But we're going to talk about that again around the middle of the show. We're going to talk about all the fun stuff there. And then, of course, we got to thank our sponsors. They make all of our travel. They make all the equipment and supplies and all the stuff we do here. They make it possible. So thank you to Summit Racing. Thank you to Driven Racing Oil. Thank you to Molly Motorsports. Thank you to Car Chains 3D, who actually lives up close to Detroit. And him and I and maybe Lance Strager are going to have dinner tomorrow night after the tech at Heads Up Hustle. And then WAF Racing, Chris Wozniak was in here earlier talking about that, dude, and love the new stacker, carb stacker slash work stand. That's awesome that they've got. Performer built transmissions. We got to have Ryan on, man. We got to have him on to tell the story from Six Summer. Remind me of that. We'll do that the week after you get back. And then Howard's Cams, Luke B. I was actually messaging with him the other day, talking about some cam shaft and valve train, just questions I had. That's the great thing about having folks that are that smart in that community. And then I don't know if you guys have seen Sweet Patina has been all over the place, dude. They've been to so many different shows and stuff. It's been crazy. And our next step is to get them to a Dragon Drive, which my goal is the Circuit 2025 to be their first Dragon Drive event. And then Racing Junk Classifieds, we did a Racing Junk segment on Saturday's news. And dude, there was a car built by another Dragon Drive racer that was for sale in the Dragon Drive segment of Racing Junk Classifieds. Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And then, of course, PowerTube TV. That's where you can see some exclusive content from us. And then these episodes, we edit them down or edit them around, I guess probably not down, to different episodes. So you have different parts of the show that are kind of, I would say, cut down into a easier to chew hour-long segment for a couple different episodes over there on their podcast specific channel. And then they just rolled out today an off-road specific channel to find all of their builders and content creators on. So pretty cool stuff. So thank you to PowerTube TV. Let's bring on our guest here in just a second. This is Mr. Cody Clements. I can't remember how the conversation with him and I started, but
Well, hopefully it didn't start just like this because you froze again. uh, so I don't know how their conversation started, so I can't lead in on this. But Cody is in Australia. It is a 13-hour, I believe, time difference. And so currently it is first thing in the morning over there while it is the evening over here. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Cody on, and I'm going to pull Mike down. Cody, how you doing?
Eric, what's happening?
Just keeping the show alive here. Mike keeps freezing up on me.
Yeah, that was a bad time for him to leave, I think.
Yeah, he jinxed himself before the show because he said, "Man, hasn't froze all day. I think we're good." And then we got 7 minutes in, and he froze. So
Here we are.
Yep. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell them a little bit about Stick Shift Garage, and we'll get this thing started.
Cody Clements from Perth, WA, which is Western Australia, obviously from Australia. It's one big isolated continent, a little different to the packed US, I guess.
Yeah.
My channel on YouTube is a Stick Shift Garage. I just started probably 4 or 5 months ago, just following through my 30A model hot rod build, which will end up being a drag and drive street strip kind of deal. So a lot of custom fabrication and engineering, and pretty much building the whole lot myself. So I thought I'd try and document some of the process on YouTube. So let other people get involved and have a look. And along with that, a few other drag events and driving events. So this recent trip to Sweden was a perfect time to do a bit of content for the YouTube as well. And it seems that the viewers have really enjoyed it. So it's something different on my behalf, and it's good to learn the process and start to get creative on the content side of things as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Mike and I say it all the time, one of the benefits to doing the stuff on YouTube is just to document what you've done, and that stuff's going to be around forever. So, kids, grandkids, everybody can go back and watch that stuff later and see all the cool stuff that we've done in the past for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And when I first got the invite to go to Street Week Sweden, man, I thought what an opportunity to document that for me and Martin to show everyone else what it's all about, And then we always have it, like you mentioned, for the future. So you can just let anyone know to jump on and check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. So why did you choose Street Week Sweden?
That's a funny story. I'll probably go back to how I met Martin in the first place. So back in 2016, a group of mates from Perth and the guys from Armadale Auto Parts, they invited us to go to Japan, the Yokohama Moon Eyes Hot Rod Show. And as well, there was probably maybe 20 people from Perth, so quite a lot of Aussies over there. And at the same time, Alan had organised for some of the Swedish guys that he had contact with before to catch up over there and meet up. So we all flew over there, had a mad time, got talking. I think there was about 5 Swedes. So Martin was there, who's the owner of the hot rod that I was in, his brother and a few other mates. And that was the first time we met him. So that was, 2016. So that was 8 years ago.
Gotcha.
Last year in Christmas, so the one just gone, he actually flew to Perth with his wife to spend Christmas over here on vacation.
Oh, cool.
So that was a good time to catch up. So that was actually the second time that I'd only ever met him. But we'd kept in contact through social media and all of that. So he comes to my place, checks out the car, loves it, we get involved. He flies home, sends me a message a few weeks later, and he's like, man, you have to come to Street Week Sweden. You have to be the co-pilot. And I was like, I'd never been to a drag and drive, but I'd seen everything online and YouTube, Drag Week, Sick Week, Rocky Mountain, everything, So I sort of knew what I was going to be in for, and I knew it would be like an adventure of a lifetime.
Oh,
And
yeah.
man, what it turned out to be, it did not disappoint.
That's awesome.
Hi, I'm back.
Oh, Mike's back.
Yeah, hey, we'll see how long it lasts. I don't know. I just messaged
Wow.
my IT guy and said, "Hey, how do we hardline to the shop?" So we'll do that soon. I don't know. So I think you just answered my next question, which was this your first event to do? And you guys kind of went into why, but say it just one more time because I was coming in late.
Yeah. So it was the first event that I'd been to. So I'd seen it all over the YouTube and socials and Drag Week, Sick Week, Rocky Mountain, everything, and it looks like the maddest time and the best adventure. So when Martin invited me to be the co-pilot for the whole week, man, I was stoked. So
Right?
it did not disappoint. We had a 2 weeks of adventure.
That's awesome.
How long was the trip from Australia where you're at to Sweden?
There's a few different ways we can go. I think we can go direct to London, which is like a 19-hour flight. So I wasn't down for that. That's way too long in a plane. So I went through Doha. I think it was 11 and a half hours from Perth to Doha, and then 7 hours from Doha to Stockholm. So it wasn't so bad. At least it kind of split it up a little bit,
Wow.
Man, it's crazy to think the distance that truly is. Like it's really far.
Yeah, it's like halfway around the world.
It truly is, yeah.
So
You're in this
the
little
time,
spot here.
over there somewhere. Yeah. So the time it takes me to get to the US or like into LA was a similar amount of time that it took me to get to Europe. It's just like the opposite way, I guess.
Yeah, that's pretty intense. Well, of the week, like there's a couple shots on your videos that is you looks like maybe in a rental car, and then there's obviously a part of it where you actually got to drive the car. Like, did you ride with him all week or did you kind of bounce around?
I rode with him all week. Maybe the couple of shots from the rental car either towards the end of the event or before the event. But yeah, I was the co-pilot for the whole week,
That's awesome.
and a couple of times he got me to drive just because you know how it is. Like I think we ended up doing 1,500 kilometers, so it's quite a long drive, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, I want to talk about this crazy. We're going to go through some pictures here tonight too, but the first picture I want to talk about is this trailer. Holy dude, how big is that thing?
Yeah, the trailer is really big. It looks really good behind it, but it's kind of too big in my opinion. It's nice to have all that stuff, but I'm sure that the car and the transmission doesn't really enjoy towing that thing around.
I feel like
but
it's as big as the car is.
it's almost bigger, I think. It looks bigger. So in the front section of the trailer there, where that little window is, there's actually 2 drop-down beds on either side. So it comfortably sleeps 2 people laying down with about 3 or 4 foot at the door side where you can actually stand up and like where the toolboxes and the parts are and etc. As well as like underneath the bed, there's more parts and gear. Martin likes to really be prepared, so we had a lot of tools, and he brought his TIG welder and gas for everyone. So if anyone needed it, which I think it was used like twice during the event, so it's
And
good to have like a lot of things, but I feel it's kind of a little too excessive.
Well, and from what I see of the pictures over there, there's a lot of camping that goes on. So this is normal for folks to have a trailer that they're going to sleep in most of the week, right?
Yeah, 100%. So it's from what I've seen online, like with a sick week and drag week and all of that, everyone sort of splits up from the track and heads to motels fairly soon. So with the street week, it's kind of a more like a camping vibe at the track. Especially this year, they changed the times of the event. So I'm not sure if you guys are caught up with this, but the actual race times for each day were from 1400 to 2100. So they raced in the afternoon into the night almost. And the next checkpoints for the next day weren't released until 1700. So you either had the choice to, if you made a good pass early on, you could like pack up one and done, get on the road and drive during the night to the checkpoints and the next track. Or you could like pack up, camp at that track and then do the drive section the next morning. So I think it's kind of different to a lot of the US ones. I'm not sure if they've done similar yet, but from what I've seen, the times are a little earlier, right?
Yeah, so a lot of the events here will run morning time. They run like 8 to 3, except for like Rocky Mountain Race Week and some of the regional stuff. The, you know, which Rocky Mountain runs 3 to 11, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Which is pretty similar to what this one
Yep.
is, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I feel like it really brought the crowd in as well, because the time over there is like their summer, right? So everyone's on vacation. So it really, the crowds at each event were much larger than I'd expected, and a lot of people had mentioned that it was really good, that it was really getting picked up through the community, you know.
Hmm.
That's cool. Well, why don't you give us a little walkthrough about the hot rod there? Tell us a little bit about engine, trans combo, and just overall about the car.
Yeah, no problem. So this is Martin's 32 coupe, which I think he first finished in 2014. Once he finished it, he actually shipped it to the US. So this is kind of like a pretty famous European hot rod. So I think he toured, or he drove it with his wife from Georgia to LA. They visited Louisville Street Rod Nationals, Good Guys West Coast Nationals, Grand National Roadster Show, Sacramento Autorama, and he picked up a few awards, which he was pretty excited about. So when he shipped it back, man, wherever you go, everyone knows this car, especially in Sweden.
That's
So
cool.
it is, and it's a beautiful car in person. I don't know if the photos like do it justice, but it is a cool car, and it's been through a few stages of change. Like right now in this photo that you'll see, it's in race mode with the pipes out the side, race tires, wheelie bars, no hood sides. So it looks a lot sort of different than it's first when he first built it. But at the moment, it's got a small block Chev, a 383 combination with a 671 blower, like twin custom throttle body injection. So it's not like it's not a carburetor copy. It's actually two large throttle bodies on a custom plate that they've come up with and an injection setup. So
Nice.
it works with a max ECU, which I guess is kind of like a Holly deal, but it's coming up big in Europe now. So the actual engine management combination works really well, and it's really adjustable. So during the event, we played with a few different settings with the throttle body opening and that to try and get it to launch a bit more consistent. Transmission is a GM 4L80. 9-inch diff, all the standard sort of hot rod deals. The only thing is the suspension, and that is not really set up for racing as much as if Martin would build it again. So it was standard style triangulated 4-bar, and now it's a ladder bar setup.
Gotcha.
So the chassis is sort of a holdback limitation almost on the car, but it is what it is, and it does work. You'll see some of the other photos, and it really hooks up in the 60 foot.
Yeah, it definitely does that. The car looks amazing, making passes. Yeah,
There you go.
yeah, the
Yeah,
car
there you go.
works and looks really cool.
It does, right? And man, everyone stops to take photos. Like, no matter where you are, if you're at the servo on the side of the road, wherever you are, people just like blown away from the car. And it's a real credit to him, you know?
Right?
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah, and then how many miles or kilometers is Street Week Sweden? How much did you guys cover?
So the funny thing is, when they advertise it on the poster, it says 150 mil, which I thought that was miles. I was like, oh, that's not actually that far. But there's a Swedish thing, and 1 mil is actually 10 kilometers. So I'd never heard of this before, right? So that's actually 1,500 kilometers.
Oh,
Gotcha.
okay.
So
1,000
yeah,
miles.
so it's really far. Like, I guess, I don't know, drag week's similar, right? I'm not sure on the exact amount.
Yep.
But it's a pretty far time, especially in this car. Like, it's I'm not sure if you've been in a 32 coupe, but they're not the most spacious things to begin with. And then you add a roll cage and race seats and big transmission tunnel and all of that stuff, and there's not a whole lot of room in there.
I can imagine.
Dude, and I would think like just the tightness of it. And did you guys drive with the side pipes, or was that like just for race mode?
So the side pipes are actually on full time, but what he did, I think a couple of years back, he ran a section under the rear with a small hot dog mufflers to the back, because the noise in the cab was just so intense for the whole time. So there's actually caps on the end of the side pipes when we're driving on the road, and then when we're at the track, we take those caps off. Otherwise, you would be you couldn't hear each other, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, let's say doesn't look like we can see him here. I was kind of hoping we could, but yeah, this is a shot of you guys on the road there.
Yeah, that's a super cool.
Yeah,
picture.
we mostly. Yeah, that is, man. The whole scenery is like forest, right? It's so green over there right now. It was amazing.
Wow. Yeah, we'll go through. I'll back up to the front of the picture stuff, and then we'll go through those here in just a moment.
Is there anybody on the team that you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, for sure. So we cruised around with a small team of guys that Martin had met before and had competed with before. So you'll see in some of the photos, there's a blue Mazda RX-8. That was Henrik from Denmark. That thing had a 6-cylinder BMW engine swapped into it. I think it was stock end, but it had a pretty large turbo. So I think it was making like in the realm of 700-ish horsepower, and he ended up winning a pro touring class with that car.
Oh, cool.
So that was pretty cool. And it's a right-hand drive car as well. So it's kind of unique over there because they're the same as you guys. They drive left-hand drive. So over here, we drive right-hand drive. So it's like, this car's almost like home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another one of the guys, Nissa, had a Audi with a RS7 swapped engine in it. So it had a 4-liter twin turbo. That thing was also making similar power. I think it was around the 700-ish mark, all-wheel drive class. He came like 3rd overall in his class. So that was another good effort. Yep. And the last guys were Joel Kim in the BMW diesel, I think with his brother and his son. So they ended up 3rd in the diesel class. So it was really good to drive around with these guys and obviously stay together and camp together the night. help us out at the track if we needed it, or help us out on the road, or whatever it was. It really kept the community vibe together, you know. So it was good to meet, especially never been to Europe before. It was good to meet other guys like together with us.
Yeah, I would think that would help a lot, especially like I don't know, do they speak English there mostly, or it's a different language, right?
It is a different language, so it's Swedish, right? But I think in high school or school they learn English, so a lot of them do speak English. Maybe not perfectly, or maybe they're not real happy to use it in case of like embarrassment. But once you get to know people, and I can't speak Swedish, so I had no chance of like anything else. So it was English or nothing, right? So once I once I got to like know people and meet people, they really started to open up, and they're really welcoming. And like even if they couldn't think of a word that they required at the time, you could work around it, right? So it was good. Like yeah, everyone was really accommodating, man. Like so many people that had probably never spoken English for a long time, they still try to make a conversation. So it was a really good time.
That's good to know. That's good to know.
Cool.
We're gonna need to know that in the next coming years.
Yeah. If you head there, man, the first thing you have to say is English. Otherwise, it'll start off all kinds of weird.
There's a Stefan Gustafsson runs, he has a channel, and there's a lot of times like it's hit or miss whether you're going to get English or Swedish. It's wild. Well, I'd like to go through a couple of these photos and kind of give us a rundown on them. Tell us what's going on. Maybe we go through two or three, and then we'll get kind of back into some of that. So what I would take, this is probably a driver's meeting. This is
this was the very first drivers meeting at Mantorp. So this was day one. So
wow.
Yeah, I think everyone. Yeah. So everyone's just hanging around there getting the drivers meeting, which was, of course, in Swedish. So I had no idea what was happening. So
you're like,
lucky I wasn't. Yeah, lucky I wasn't driving, because I would have had no idea where the return lane was.
Right. That's pretty awesome, man. That's a ton of people too. I love that the sport is that big there. Because I mean they're a lot like the other folks we talked to. They're cracked down on everybody doing cool stuff with cars.
They have, yeah. So I think they limited the tickets to 200, and that was the biggest event that they had. I think they had 198 entries full time, and they were turning people away, which were waiting at the gate with cars.
Wow.
So I think in previous years, people have dropped out, so they've let people through, but this year no one could come last minute.
Wow. Interesting.
So it was packed, man.
I think, yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I think the initial tickets like sold out in 14 minutes or something. So I guess it's like the ones in the US where everyone's trying to get in straight away.
Yep. Yeah, that's huge. That's a huge win for them. I mean, to be able to have that kind of car count, and unfortunately, it's sad to turn people away, but to have to do that because based on your insurance and your track rental and all the stuff that goes along with that, that's pretty awesome. Well, what's happening here on the left, and then we'll talk about the right a little bit later.
So the left, that's another 32, which is if you follow along with the photos or the videos on the channel, man, that thing is like a wild setup. It's a twin turbo, some type of combination. I think it's a small block Chev around 400 cubes. It runs in, I think, Max Outlaw or the one under Max Outlaw. It's a very fast car, and they like to see that thing driving on the street. There's a cool clip I caught when we cruised past it, towing its small trailer. So good.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's really weird to see like what I would consider American cars over there. I know these aren't necessarily American cars, but like it's always cool to see the amount that turns out. And I think that's what's up next is nope, not that one. Like this one here, I mean, it's like an El Camino and a Chevy van. And
yeah. So that El Camino is like a big block Chev sleeper, and in the rear quarter there, under the tailgate, there's like a toolbox. Under the toolbox, there's a side mount turbo, like a 88 or 98 millimeter turbo like hidden under the tray. It's a
Yeah.
pretty
Nice.
cool combination. So that young guy drives that, and yeah, he had a good time.
Yeah, talk about sneaking up on somebody.
Oh yeah, it's a full. We call that a sleeper over here. I'm not sure what
Yeah.
you guys call it
Oh,
over there, but
Same.
even the intake, it had like a standard air filter, and the intake was like ducted in underneath it, so you couldn't really tell.
Yes.
That's
I
pretty
like that.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna need
One
to
thing that
see some more
really,
pictures of that.
yeah, for sure. One thing that blew me away was actually, like you said, the American car culture over there. Because I'd never been to Europe, especially Sweden, and everywhere you drive, there is old American cars on the road, and
Wow.
in the paddocks, in the barns, people's sheds, because I guess they were sold there new, which really surprised me because I didn't expect to see like so many of these cars over there.
Yeah.
So we're cruising down the freeway, and because it's their vacation time, you see like old Chevs towing little caravans and like pristine cars as well. Some of these cars are like show quality, and they're just cruising down the freeway towing a little caravan on holiday. It's like, this is cool.
For everybody in the U.S., that means they're towing a camper on vacation.
A camper, yeah, basically. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's cool. So it looks like there was another shout out we wanted to do for C3 Corvette team.
Oh yeah, that's a Hellman Racing team. I think you could probably follow them on socials. That was Sari and Hanu. Man, that Corvette was fine. That is like almost a show car. Had a full red leather interior. They were running in Ultimate Street and ended up second, I think. It's a big cubic inch nitro steel, but really nice car and really nice people. That the English wasn't perfect, but they were always so happy to talk to me, like, and see me during the lanes or through the laps or whatever it was. Man, always so happy. They had big issues on the last drive day. So something different with a street week, I think, is after the last track or the fifth track, the next day you actually have to transport back to the beginning. I'm not sure if that's common over there.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, so they finished racing at the last track, got on the road, and then had some like terrible engine dramas on the road. I think they had a couple of lifter failures that they couldn't repair. So I'm not. I think they removed the lifters and push rods and ran on 6 cylinders all the way back to Mantor, and that's a lot of dedication. They were a little concerned about oiling issues for the engine. It's quite a big cubic inch engine, and it was running like shit, but they made it. So, and they ended up picking second in their class. So that's some serious dedication. I'm pretty sure they camped on the side of the road after repairing the engine at like 4 a.m.
That's what I'm talking about. That's drag and drive life right there for sure.
Yeah, that's right. That's some husband and wife material, right?
That's exactly right. Well, run us through some of the tracks. We definitely want to know which track was your favorite, but what are some other standouts that were there that we also?
So the first track was a Mantle, as we've seen in that photo. That was like they have a circuit track and a strip there as well. So that was what I would call a pretty prep track, I guess. So everyone was hooking pretty hard and getting good times. Then we went to Delayana. Oh, so sorry. After the first track, they're all airfields. So they're all from the war or around that era out in the countryside. So really far out of the sort of close cities. So that's kind of unique in itself because they're all running 8th mile, like on an airstrip. And 2 or 3 of those are actually virgin ground. So they hadn't run that place or that that direction on the airfield before. So that was a really leveling thing on a couple of the tracks.
Yeah.
So Delayana was the second track. That was an airfield, but they'd run previously on that. So it had a bit of rubber down and pretty good traction. So it wasn't so bad for the guys. After that, we went to Sundsvall, which was a airfield as well, but they would also set up and started to race there. So it was a bit more set up as a 8 mile track, I think it was, full time. So there was a bit of traction down pretty good. The fourth day, we went to Sodaham, which is a fully virgin track, no rubber down at all. And that day, the weather was actually really starting to come in. So a lot of the cars got one quick pass, us included, and it wasn't the number that we were chasing. So we lined up again. So at 2 o'clock racing starts, we lined up again at around 3:30, 4 o'clock, and we sat in the lanes, 3 cars from the front, until 9 o'clock at night when the rain set in. So we did not get to make another pass. So we sat there for like 5 hours in the lane. So it started to rain. Yeah, man, it was devastating.
I bet.
So it started to rain at like 3 o'clock, and then probably 7:30ish, it started to die off. So the track crew actually got out there with a vacuum and started to dry the track out. So they did that for a good hour. It was coming pretty good, and it looks like we could have got a pass in. And then half an hour before shut off, it just started to rain torrentially. So that was it. So we got a 7.3, I think, and our cutoff is a 6.5. So we were not happy with that. But at least we got one pass in, I guess. There was about 10 to 12 cars that couldn't even make a pass. They didn't get time. So they got like an automatic 60-second penalty. So that was pretty devastating for them, you know. But I guess we can't control the weather.
Right.
Wow,
So after that day, there was a drive day to Luxor, but racing wasn't until the day after. So during the drive day, we actually had a few issues with the 32. We can get into those a bit later. And then Luxor was another virgin airfield. A lot of big power cars were struggling to get into the 4s there that they had been doing at other tracks. So I think only one car in the whole day got a 4.99, which was a new track record.
Wow.
He ended up winning Max Outlaw and the whole event overall. So that was a really fast Matt Black Nova.
Yep, and you can tell, like, for the folks that look up Street Week Sweden and the stats and stuff, you can see the day. There was one car that day that went 4s, and I mean, knowing now that was virgin, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. That the first few passes of those big hitters, they were either blowing the tires off or just snaking that whole way down the track, like no lift. And it's a little hectic. So I think those guys do a little bit of testing on the street as well, so they have a bit of an idea of what some virgin ground's going to be like. And see.
What's the event that 1320 goes over for all the time, or once a year, this Stockholm Open, like that?
Yeah, they have done the Stockholm Open. Yeah. There's a few events like that over there that guys are into, and there's some seriously big hitter cars in that kind of deal. They really know what's up.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That's wild.
So yeah, which of those was your favorite there? Which track was your favorite visit?
Probably Sundsvall, I reckon. It was like a pretty good track and a pretty good layout. So the pits are on the airfield up the back end. That was where I took that nice sunset photo. So yeah, it was a pretty good layout there. And the return lane, you could come back. Yeah, that one there. So that picture there is actually hard to believe, but that's midnight.
Yeah.
So this is somewhat in the north of Sweden. So this is the north, or the furthest north we went. So this sun is like still setting at this time. And I said to Martin, I was like, I need to pull the car up the end of the airfield here and get some shots, because this sunset at midnight is perfect.
So is that normal then?
It is in the north of Sweden, yeah. So the opposite happens in winter, where the sun almost doesn't come out at all, which I find that pretty hard to believe. This was hard to get used to.
Yeah.
Now, well, that's why they have such long winters to build all these mad cars, right?
Yeah. They don't,
So
they don't know
does-
what time it is. Like usually if it's 5 a.m. the sun's coming up here, I'm like, I've worked too long. But there
Yeah.
you would just
Oh,
be
yeah.
working.
So does the sun
Yeah,
still come up
100%.
like first thing in the morning too?
So this exact day, the sun sort of dipped below the horizon at like 1 a.m., so about an hour from now, and then it come back up about 2:30. So it like almost didn't get dark at all. It was just like light the whole time. I think we went to sleep at like 3 a.m. You can see some of this footage in the channel on the latest video. There's some guys still welding their diff back together at like 3 in the morning.
Man, that's
Jeez.
wild. I couldn't imagine. Sun sets at 1 and then a couple hours later, if that, it's back up again.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No thanks. That'd be pretty tough. Now, this made me that made me think of like time zones. What is the time zone difference from where you live to Sweden? You just a couple hours?
Uh, 6 hours. So I think they were 6 hours ahead.
Wow, that's awesome.
So sorry, when it was in Sweden, Perth was 6 hours ahead.
Gotcha. So it wasn't too bad then.
No, not so bad. So you could still contact back home with the family and that, you know.
Yeah. Speaking of, it's Thursday morning where you're at right now, correct?
It is, yeah. It's 9:32 a.m.
He's in the future.
I know
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking
I'm in the
too.
future.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Uh,
We have some
so-
political questions to ask later.
Yeah. So we're gonna move on and talk a little bit about route stops now. So we talked about your favorite tracks. What were some of the route stops, and then what were your favorite of those route stops?
Oh yeah, this one here is a random train station, sort of in the middle of nowhere. This one was probably my favorite because we caught up with a a Volvo, sorry, along the drive that had actually come from the US. It was a cast block LS deal with like a massive turbo. It had like a 98 millimeter, I think. It was probably too big for the combination, but the dudes are from England, I think. You might recognize the car. I'm not sure if I uploaded a photo of it, but I'll put some footage up later. I think it had done Sick Week or Drag Week, either one of those.
Okay.
So they competed, sent it back to England, and then for Street Week here, they put it on the ship, I think, sent it over and drove it for Street Week. So they were having a mad time as well. And
Yeah.
it was a little easier to speak English with those guys. We could have like a fully fluent conversation. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, you're like, finally,
Yeah.
people speak my language.
Yes. Someone from the motherland.
That's awesome.
And then what
there
were
was
some of the
another
other
shot.
stops?
Yeah.
Some of the other stops. So this is one of them here. This is someone's cafe, like out in the country. They had a cool hot rod on the roof. A lot of the crowd got behind this one and were like parked out, waiting for the cars to come through. So this is a really cool stop along the way.
Wow, that's pretty
Some of the
cool.
other stops, there was a couple of businesses. Not sure. There's photos. A few businesses. A suspension shop. One of the parts retailers. A random bus stop in the middle of the country, which is kind of hard to find on the GPS because it took us like a real weird way.
Yeah, I bet.
Well, let's talk about some of the struggles you had with the car because you sent me this photo before we got started, and you're like, ask me about this later. Tell us what's going on with this photo here.
Right. So if you follow along with the YouTube videos, you'll kind of see that on the latest one that's uploaded, we got the transmission a little warm on the way into Sundsvall. So I changed the fluid, and we continued on. We raced that day, and we raced the next day where we got that one pass in the rain. We're cruising along this drive day down the freeway, and the car's running perfect. Like we're sitting on, I don't know, miles, maybe 55 miles an hour, 50 mile an hour. What's that, like 100 k's an hour? I think it's pretty close. Cars running, yeah, pretty close, somewhere there. Cars running really smooth, towing the trailer. All of a sudden, we hear like this grinding noise for 2 seconds. Me and Martin look at each other and was like, damn, that's weird. I'm not sure what it was. Carl was still acting fine. We get like 3 minutes down the road, and all of a sudden we lost all drive in every gear.
Oh.
So we were in trouble because the section of the freeway we were on just had like 2 lanes and a guardrail either side. So there was like no shoulder to pull over on. So we coasted past like around a corner there, just enough to get it like kind of half off the road. And the blue RX-8 you can see here pulled up right in front of us, and we quickly grabbed the strap and tried to tow the car and the trailer and the whole deal off the road, like off the next freeway exit. And the poor BMW 6-cylinder was building some boost trying to pull the big deal along. But luckily we got off the road there and we pulled into this old Bricksworks factory and confirmed that the transmission was pretty much non-existent. So we had no gears, no reverse, no gears, no nothing. And it started to smell. So we knew it was going to be terminal.
Yeah.
So me and Martin had a bit of a discussion. He made a few phone calls to friends, and this transmission being a 4L80, it's not super common over there. Similar in Australia, it's not a common transmission here. So the only parts that we could have drummed up in time would have been like clutch packs, which we had a feeling it wasn't fully convinced to be just clutches anyway. So we made the call. Martin made the call, and he's like, it's not worth spending the time to pull it out, try and rebuild it on the side of the road with no parts and waste all that time anyway. And from the day before with the rain, we'd gone from 2nd place to 4th place. So we really didn't have a whole lot of chance in the competition. So that mixed with the parts availability and everything else, he decided to call it a day, which was a little disappointing at the time for sure. Both me and him were, a little upset as you get. But when we found out later on at the end of the event, once we pulled the transmission out, he definitely made the right call because it had ruined some hard parts. One of the planetaries got seized and it had stripped the sun gears completely. So we had no chance of fixing that thing, especially not on the side of the road.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have pulled it apart and just been looking at 4 hours worth of work in a pulled apart thing.
Yeah, basically in the side of an abandoned brick factory. So not the most ideal conditions, right? So he did make the right call in the end. As much as you hate to see it, it's it was what it was. So that was it. But Martin's got some big plans now because this is like he's had some bad transmission dramas with this. So it's like the 4th transmission he's blown up. So he's gone through them all. So he's really had enough. So it looks like now he's installing 8 HP 75, I think, which are a real common transmission over there because they come out in a lot of Beamers and Audis and all of them. So the price point and the tunability and the electronic lockup and leave and all of that has really sold it. So we're probably going to have 2 of them. So I think he's already ordered the bell housing conversion, and we're getting underway to make that change over there. So at least with something like that, you could have a spare back at the shop that you could just swap over on the side of the road if you ever have to, which is much easier than trying to pull apart a transmission that you can't get parts for.
Oh, especially, and that's an interesting choice. That's we're seeing a lot more of that. A lot of people are looking at different stuff, not just going straight for the turbo 400 anymore.
Yeah, 100% with these new transmissions, and I guess even with a 4L80, the overdrive is key on these drag and drive events, right? So it makes it so much easier when towing, and that like HHP has 2 lots of overdrive, so the computer can control whatever you want. You can adjust the torque value inputs to each gear change and everything. You can leave in 2nd, 3rd. It's got a trans brake. So there's a lot of tunability and a lot of things tick in the box for the price point.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's and just being able to get it is one of the big wins there.
Oh yeah, well they're so common in those European cars. I mean, I guess it's harder for you guys, but the stronger versions come out in the Dodge Hellcats. I think they're 8 HP 90, so
Yep.
they're pretty common over there, I guess.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So, with all that and upgrading the trans and everything, are you planning on going back and doing Street Week Sweden again?
Yeah, I think after this time, man, I'd like to say this was an adventure of a lifetime, and it was,
Yeah.
but I want to do it again. We had such a good time,
That's
and
awesome.
we're gonna try and push for a win. You know, we feel we can be a little bit more competitive. The car is too fast for the class by a little bit. Oh, we've lost Mike.
Yeah, he froze up again.
So the breakout for the hot rod class in Street Week is a 650, and the car
Okay.
is capable of like 620s. So, and you've seen the way it can hook. So we feel with a bit of tuning and adjustability and power management side of things, transmission management, we can try and sharpen up the pencil on the 650s and really run a competitive race. So I'd like
Gotcha.
to say that I'll be there next year, and we'll really
That
push for it, you know?
that'll be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really, really looking forward to it. I think Martin is as well.
You kind of mentioned when you were talking about the car about kind of skirting the line there with it being a street car. Do you guys have pretty strict rules over there when it comes to modifying your cars and stuff?
Yeah, we do. We have a lot of strict rules on factory style cars. Definitely the power to weight ratio, the engine swap side of things is really hard to do, I guess. It is possible, but like ridiculous swaps like twin turbo big blocks and stuff, like impossible. So legally, very hard to do that kind of deal.
So
The hot rods
they
are a little.
they limit your power to weight ratio?
So the weight of the car has, I think, off the top of my head, it's 180 kilowatts per ton.
Wow. Interesting.
That's on a standard factory car. The hot rod deal is a little different. We're limited by a cubic inch capacity, so it's a 460 cubic inch capacity. We have to run either fenders or small, what we call cycle guards. So they're like a motorcycle guard over the tires. So I know you guys over there in
Oh, yeah.
Sweden and that don't have to run fenders at all. So that's like another difference. We've got like a ground clearance rule of 100 mil. So the lowest part of the car has to be like 100 millimeters off the floor. So
That's
I would
interesting.
guess it's a lot stricter than the US over here.
Yeah.
So here's I mean, we have a lot of those laws in place. We have a lot of those rules in place. Our police just don't enforce them. When they see a cool
Yeah.
car, they're like, "Oh, thumbs up."
Yeah. You got a lot of people. I think it comes down to the people, right? So you have like so many people over there, and I guess so little police, or I don't know about the combination, but over here, there's like, especially in Perth, we only have 2 million people in the whole of this state. So there is not really that many people, and there's not that many roads and places. We only have like one big city, and so
Gotcha.
you're bound to stick out like a sore thumb, right? And
Yeah.
they're not going to turn a blind eye when they see something ridiculous driving
But they're
past,
like,
because
"Oh, that's an easy way to
yeah,
make some money.
oh yeah,
Let's go
yeah,
talk
yeah.
to that guy." Yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
100%. And we got like speed cameras on the side of the roads and fixed speed cameras and all of that deal. So they get you any way they can. Don't worry about that.
Wow.
So is there an Australian Dragon Drive in your future?
Yeah, I would like. So we run in Australia. There's a Street Machine Drag Challenge, which obviously
Yep.
you guys have heard all about. So I think that's in the Melbourne area, or the Melbourne Sydney area. It's on the east coast anyway. It's like 3,500 kilometers from me, so it's somewhere over there. But once my car is finished, I would love to trailer the car over there, drive the event, and then trailer it back, because that's way too many kilometers to put on a car that you're trying to race.
Yeah, we were
But
talking
yeah, for
before the
sure.
show. You said that was roughly how many hours?
It's like 52 hours of driving, I think it is, to get over there, like from Google Maps or whatever it is. So that's a lot of driving.
Yeah, that'd be tough. That'd be tough to take, especially, if it's a new build, to drive that
Oh, yeah.
long and then try to beat on it for an event and then drive back. That's almost
And then
impossible.
there's not a lot in the middle of Australia, so I wouldn't really want to be trying to rebuild the transmission on the side of the road out in the desert there.
At one point in 23, Mick Apps with the Road Trip Drag Challenge had created an event in Perth at whatever track is closest to you. He had it, but he couldn't get. I don't think there was something he couldn't get done with it and had to cancel the event. So he's definitely looking. There's people trying to do something closer to you, and it would just be a regional event, a weekend type deal. But I mean, there's definitely got to be some want over there for sure.
Yeah, especially the radial tire kind of thing now is really starting to take off in Perth. So there's a lot of fast street cars getting built on radial tires, which you can sort of run on the street, I guess, as far as like DOT approval. Like you really can't be driving around on a slick or anything over here, or like a 33-inch wide tire that you see like you guys doing in Sweden. That's impossible. But a radial tire, like a 275 kind of deal, you could drive that and not stick out too much. You know what I mean? So I think it's really starting to come up with the fast street car kind of thing. So hopefully, it picks up in Perth, and like you said, maybe they come up with a regional deal or something where we start at Kwinana, which is our only track, and possibly do like a 8th mile at maybe an airfield or something somewhere else. So there's a lot of possibilities, and once a car's closer to completion, I'd really like to look into that as well. So hopefully we could set something up. Yeah.
Well, and by then you'll be YouTube famous, and like you'll have sponsors that'll take you to get your car across the country and all that kind of stuff.
Well, you can only hope, right? If any sponsors are available, I'll ship my car to Sweden too one year once it's finished.
Yes, that's exactly right. And you can make that happen faster with large checks.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, listen, man, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day there. It's daytime for you and nighttime for us here in the States. I appreciate you doing this. I really do. I know we kind of barraged you with some questions, but I appreciate your openness and sharing your experience with Street Week Sweden and just some backstory of how all of that come together. That's really cool.
Yeah.
No, thanks so much for having us on. It's been brilliant, guys, and it's good to get publicity out for what we do, right? Drag, drive, repeat.
That's exactly
Absolutely.
That's exactly right. Well, hey, thanks again. We appreciate it. We'll see you soon.
Thanks.
See ya.
Bye. All right, guys. And now remember, go follow Stick Shift Garage on YouTube, because that dude has some really cool stuff, and just the way he explained stuff, I felt like I understood, which is really cool. And to be able to, I mean, think about that, dude. He like traveled from Australia, which is in the southern hemisphere,
Right.
to Sweden, which is in the northern hemisphere, to do a drag and drive. Man, that's so cool. From people that am I hearing that right? He met them in like 2016. How cool is that?
Yeah, it's
Wow.
super cool. I always like when we get people from Sweden and Australia on the show, because I mean, we don't have the ability to talk to people like this regularly, so it's super cool to hear their stories and hear their experiences. I always enjoy it.
Yep, and especially to have the experience he did, where he actually, these people are, has a few friends, and then he can travel up there and do all that. I mean, it's That's really awesome. We need friends like that. We need friends in Sweden. I think we have a few. We just need to
Yeah.
maybe lean on them a little bit
It,
and get that set up.
yeah, and listen, this was his first Dragon Drive. So your
Dude,
first Dragon Drive, you traveled across the country to
Yeah.
co-pilot in a 32 coupe. Like,
Yeah, across the world, man.
does
Across
it
the
get much
world.
cooler than that?
No, not at all. Not at all. Well, man, send us out. Let's get out of here so I can get on the road.
Yep. All right. So once again, guys, it's been a fun night. We've had a ton of people in here watching, ton of people making comments. Thank you to you guys. You guys are what help keep us going. You guys are what's going to get Mike from where he's sitting now to Detroit to get on a mic and preach Dragon Drive to all the people at that event. And again, guys, thanks to our sponsors. We couldn't do it without them. Summit Racing Equipment, Driven, Racing Oil, Molly Motorsports, Car Chains 3D, WAF Racing, Performabuilt Transmission, Howard's Cams, Sweet Patina, Racing Junk, and Power Tube TV. Guys, we will see you on the next episode.
All right. See you guys.
Like this show? Want more? Then head to WatchPTTV.com, the new 100% free PowerTube TV streaming network. Home of the best classic and new motorsports racing and build shows on the web.